Good day, everyone. We are the Group 6, and today we will present our comparative analysis of local and international language policies. Our presentation focuses on two language policies. First, we have the mother tongue-based multilingual education policy in the Philippines and the language policy of Myanmar. So, we will examine their objectives, implementation, challenges, and impacts, as well as their relevance in today's globalized educational landscape. Why language matters? Language policies play an important role in shaping educational systems and cultural identity. They influence how students learn, how teachers teach, and how societies preserve their linguistic heritage. In multilingual countries, language policies also affect inclusivity, communication, and equal access to education. Because of this, understanding language policies is essential in addressing educational challenges in diverse countries. So first, we will be talking the local policy, the MTB-MLE. The Mother Tongue-Based Multilingual Education, or MTB-MLE, was officially implemented in the Philippines in year 2012 under the K-12 Educational Reform Program. This policy uses the learner's first language or mother tongue as the primary medium of instruction from kindergarten to grade 3. The goal of MTB-MLE is to improve students' comprehension, literacy development, classroom participation, and overall learning experiences. It also promotes cultural preservation by valuing the local languages and identities within the educational system. Next, we have the international policy, Myanmar. In Myanmar, the national language policy promotes Burmese as the official language used in education and public communication. Although Myanmar has many ethnic groups with different native languages, Burmese remains the dominant medium of instruction in most public schools. The policy aims to strengthen national unity and communication through a common language. However, this approach also creates challenges for ethnic minority students whose first language is different from Burmese. This shows how language policies can influence both educational opportunities and social inclusion.
Several studies emphasize that language policies influence academic performance, cultural preservation, and educational equality. Research on multilingual education suggests that students learn more effectively when lessons are delivered in language familiar to them. So here are some related studies of local and international language policy. explain that language policies are shaped by historical and socio-political factors such as colonization, globalization, and the national identity. And also, these studies help explain why language policies remain important in multicultural and multilingual societies.
The objectives of the two language policies reveal both similarities and differences. The Philippine MTB-MLE policy promotes multilingualism by encouraging students to learn using their mother tongue. It also aims to preserve local languages and improve students' comprehension during early education. In contrast, Myanmar's language policy focuses more on national unity by strengthening the use of Burmese as a common language. Although both policies aim to improve education, they differ in how they approach linguistic diversity. The difference affects how students experience learning and inclusion inside the classroom. In the Philippines, MTB-MLE is implemented by using regional mother tongues as a medium of instruction in early education. Teachers are trained to teach using local languages, and instructional materials are translated into different mother tongues. This approach helps young learners understand lessons more effectively because they are taught in a familiar language. Meanwhile, Myanmar mainly uses Burmese as the dominant instructional language in public schools. As a result, students from ethnic minority groups may struggle to fully understand classroom discussions and lessons. This demonstrates how implementation strategies directly affect students' learning experiences and participation. Despite their goals, both policies face several implementation challenges. In the Philippines, some schools experience shortage of instructional materials and trained teachers for certain local languages. This affects the consistency and effectiveness of MTB-MLE implementation across different regions. In Myanmar, ethnic minority students often experience language barriers because Burmese remains the dominant classroom language. This can reduce classroom participation, comprehension, and inclusivity among learners. These challenges shows that successful language policies require sufficient resources, proper teacher preparation, and inclusive educational support.
Four impact of the policies. First is the literacy development. Second one is the student participation. Third one is the cultural preservation. And lastly is the language proficiency. So, the impacts of these language policies can be seen in both education and cultural identity. In the Philippines, MTB-MLE helps improve literacy classrooms, participation, and student confidence during early education. It also supports the preservation of local languages and strengthens cultural identity among learners. Meanwhile, Myanmar's language policy strengthens the use of Burmese as a national languages. However, it may also create difficulties for ethnic minority learners who are less familiar with Burmese. This shows that language policies can either promote inclusivity or create barriers depending on how they are implemented. Global relevance. So, relevance in today's globalized world. So, there are four types of global relevance. First is the inclusive education. Second one is the global communication. Third one is the cultural identity. And the last one is the multilingualism. In today's globalized world, language policies remain highly relevant in education. They help societies balance global communication with cultural preservation and national identity. Language policies also promote inclusive education by recognizing the importance of linguistic diversity inside the classrooms. As globalization continues to connect people worldwide, educational systems must support both international communication and respect for local cultures and languages.
To improve the effectiveness of these language policies, several recommendations can be considered. So first is more teacher training. So governments should provide more teacher training programs focused on multilingual education and inclusive teaching strategies. So the second one is the better instructional materials. So schools should receive sufficient instructional materials in different local languages to support effective learning. So the third one is the government support. So policymakers should strengthen support for ethnic minority learners to create more inclusive educational environments. And then the fourth one is inclusive classrooms. So schools should create inclusive classrooms where students from different linguistic and cultural backgrounds feel respected, valued, and supported in their learning. And lastly is community involvement. So collaboration among schools, communities, and of course the governments is essential for the successful language policy implementation.
In conclusion, both the mother tongue-based multilingual education policy in the Philippines and the Myanmar language policy aim to improve education and communication within their societies. However, they differ in objectives, implementation, strategies, and inclusivity. The Philippines promotes multilingualism and cultural preservation, while Myanmar focuses more on national unity through a common language. These policies demonstrate that language education is not only about communication, but also about identity, equality, and cultural understanding. With proper implementation, resources, and support, language policies can help create more inclusive and effective educational systems. That's all for our comparative analysis presentation. Thank you for watching and for listening our video.